All right, let's talk about that big metal box outside your house, your air conditioner. For most of us, it's a total mystery. And when it breaks down, the advice you get can be all over the place, and the costs, well, they can be downright terrifying. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on your HVAC system and give you the straightforward info you need to make some really smart decisions. Let's get into it.
Just picture it for a second. It is the absolute hottest day of the year. The humidity is off the charts, and then nothing. Just silence. The cool air cuts out, and your house starts turning into a sauna. It's that moment of pure panic every homeowner dreads, and it's exactly what we're here to help you get ahead of.
You know, the good news is your air conditioner almost never just dies without a fight. It usually gives you some warning signs first. The trick is just knowing what to look for or listen for. Okay, so these are the big ones, the classic red flags. Blowing warm air? That's kind of the most obvious one, right? But hey, don't ignore water pulling up inside or weird buzzing and clanking sounds. If you look outside and that big fan isn't spinning, that's a major problem. Oh, and keep an eye on your electric bill. If it suddenly skyrockets, that's often your system screaming that it's working way, way too hard.
So you've spotted one of those symptoms, but what does it actually mean? Let's play detective for a minute and connect a couple of the most common issues to what's really going on inside the machine. I bet you've heard this one. You hear the system try to kick on, there's that definite hum, maybe a buzz, but the outdoor fan just never gets going. And meanwhile, the house is just getting hotter and hotter. So what is actually broken here?
Well, more often than not, the culprit is a little part called a capacitor. The easiest way to think about it is like a battery. It gives that big jolt of energy needed to get the whole thing started. The problem is, these things just get cooked in extreme heat and wear out really fast. It's one of the most common repairs out there, especially in warmer parts of the country. Okay, here's another scenario that happens all the time. The AC is humming along just fine, and then suddenly it just shuts itself off. You go to check it out, and you find a puddle of water forming around the indoor furnace or air handler. This isn't just a leak, it's actually a safety feature doing its job. Yep, this is almost always a clogged condensate drain line. See, your AC is basically a giant dehumidifier, right? It's pulling gallons of water out of the air on a humid day. All that water is supposed to go down a drain. But that dark, damp pipe is the perfect place for algae to grow and create a clog. When the water backs up, a little safety switch flips and shuts the whole system down, so you don't end up with a flooded ceiling. Now here's something you might not think about. Not all HVAC problems are created equal. Where you actually live plays a huge role in what's likely to go wrong with your system. So, if you're in a place that's really hot and humid, think Texas or Florida, your poor AC is in a constant battle. The soil itself, if it's clay, can expand and shift the foundation of your house, which puts a ton of stress on the system's pipes and ducts. The brutal humidity means the unit has to run nonstop, causing a ton of extra wear and tear. And even your water, if it's hard water, can leave behind these crusty mineral deposits that hurt performance. Sooner or later, you're going to face a repair bill that's big enough to make you just stop. And you'll have to ask that one big question. And that's where a really simple rule of thumb can save you a ton of stress and, honestly, a lot of money. This is it. This is the moment of truth. The technician gives you a quote for a pretty serious repair. Do you pour more money into this old system, or is it finally time to bite the bullet and invest in a new one? You know, making the wrong call here can literally cost you thousands. Okay, let me introduce you to something called the $5,000 rule. It is a super simple formula designed to take all the emotion out of this decision. It forces you to look at it financially, factoring in not just today's repair cost, but the odds of more repairs down the road, and all the energy you're wasting with an old, inefficient unit. And you're going to love how easy this is. It's just one multiplication. You take the repair quote the technician gave you, and you multiply it by the age of your system in years. That's it. The number you get from that, that's your guide. Okay, let's see this thing in action, because this is where it really clicks. Example 1. You've got a 10-year-old system, and the repair is going to be $400. So 400 times 10, that's $4,000. Since that's less than $5,000, the rule says, yeah, go ahead and repair it. But now look at the second one. The system's a little older, 12 years, and the repair is a bit more expensive, $600. Well, 600 times 12 is $7,200. Because that's way over $5,000, it's a really strong signal that you're better off putting that money toward a new system. See how a couple of years and a couple $100 completely flips the decision? It's pretty cool.
All right, so whether you decide to repair or replace, none of it matters if you don't have a good, trustworthy pro doing the work, right? So let's quickly go over the absolute non-negotiables of what good service actually looks like. First thing, and this is a big one, upfront pricing. You should never, ever have to wonder what the final bill is going to look like. A real professional is going to diagnose the problem and give you a written, fixed price before they touch a single tool. If you say yes, that is the price you pay. No games, no surprises.
And listen, the job isn't done just because a new part is in. Not even close. It's done when the system is actually proven to be working right. A good tech will stick around. They'll measure the temperature coming out of your vents. They'll check the refrigerant pressures. They'll make sure the airflow is strong. They don't just fix it. They verify the fix.
And finally, check their credentials. We're talking about proper state licenses and those crucial EPA certifications, which are required for handling refrigerants. And if you're getting a whole new system, they have to be pulling the right local permits. I know it sounds like boring paperwork, but it's your only guarantee that the job is being done safely and up to code. So if the $5,000 rule does point you toward a replacement, you're probably wondering, okay, great, what's this going to cost me? Well, it's good to have a realistic number in mind. For a typical home, depending on the size and efficiency you go with, a full new system installation is usually going to land somewhere in this ballpark. So far, we've pretty much just been talking about how to react when things go wrong. But you know what's a million times better? Avoiding the problem in the first place. So let's wrap up with how to get proactive. Here is the easiest, totally free tip I can give you. It's called the 3-minute rule. When your AC shuts off, you need to let it rest for at least 3 minutes before turning it back on. Firing it up too quickly puts a massive strain on the compressor. That's the heart of the whole system. Now, most modern thermostats do this automatically, but you should still avoid manually flicking it on and off. It's a simple habit that can prevent a horribly expensive repair. And of course, nothing, and I mean nothing, beats having regular professional maintenance done. A tune-up keeps your system running as efficiently as possible, which saves you real money on your bills. But even more important, it lets a technician spot those little problems, like a capacitor that's getting weak or a drain that's starting to get gunked up, before they turn into a full-blown emergency. And really, that brings us to the final question you need to ask yourself. Now that you have this knowledge, you don't have to just sit around and wait for something to break. You know the signs, you have a tool to make a smart financial decision, and you know how to be proactive. So, which is it going to be? Are you going to wait for the breakdown, or are you ready for that next heat wave? Thanks so much for tuning in.